Good morning, good day, and good evening. I am, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and today I think it's episode 127. Probably. Anyway, today's guest is none other than Unfa, and we were going to start 10 minutes ago, but then he spent 10 minutes fixing his camera, and now his lighting is, like, you change your lighting, but it's still, like, blown out,
Shit.
and you're doing, like, audio settings and stuff. So, like, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Brody. Thanks for having me. I'm
No
doing
worries, no
okay.
worries. Well, before we get into it, why don't you just tell people who you are and what you do?
Okay. I'm an artist. I do audio, music, sound effects. I also work full time as a 3D artist for video games, which is kind of a dream job for me. Actually, it's second dream job. First dream job would be to making videos
Right.
about Linux and open source audio full time, but that didn't happen yet. And also, I'm doing some game development on my own with open source software, having fun,
Doesn't sound
trying
like having
to
fun.
trying to make shit work. Spending hours and hours on something I thought I messed up when I realized it's an engine bug because I'm always on alpha software.
Yeah.
That's how I roll.
You're building it in, is it Godot?
Yeah, Godot.
Yeah. Actually, I guess a lot of people probably don't know about the open source game you're working on. Let's talk about Liblast. Why not?
Yeah, sure.
I have been following along with some of the stuff you've been doing, but why don't you explain to the people, what the game is?
All right, so I'm a lead on a project to make a game called Liblast. It stands for Liber and Blast. It's a open source multiplayer first-person shooter. The idea is to make a modern game on the modern open source tech that will be a friendly environment for people who are both veterans and newbies to first-person shooting, to have some silly fun and just have an alternative to all the microtransactions, passes, and whatnot. And also games dying on them because servers cost too much and we need you to buy the new thing, so we'll kill the old thing. That kind of shit. Yeah, so for as long as I remember, I wanted to make an open source first-person shooter game, especially multiplayer. I've been playing lots of Unreal Tournament when I was a kid. Actually, I spent way too much time playing it, but only with bots because I didn't have internet first. And then when I had internet, it never occurred to me to try and play with people. I was afraid. I was like, I like playing with bots. This is safe. I know what I can expect. But I've been playing some other games online, like Zonotic. It's an open source FPS game. The problem I have with Zonotic and other open source first-person shooters is that they are pretty much all of them are using ancient technology based on Quake 1.
And if it's based on Quake
the same
1,
can
that
be
means people
said.
have had 30 years to get good at it.
Yeah, and 30 years to create good tooling about it, around it, to like make levels. But some inherent limitations are still there and are quite apparent. And yeah, we can say that, okay, Half-Life 2 and CSGO are also built on an engine built on Quake 1. But Valve has some more resources to make this stuff more capable than maybe our collective community. So yeah, I wanted to break up with the legacy of Quake and work on Godot, because I think it's like the best designed game engine out there, even regarding commercial proprietary ones. The company I work for uses Unity, and I've been working for another company also using Unity. And man, Unity is such a fucking mess.
I have had a little bit of experience with Unity. My my honors project, we were doing it was a VR data analysis tool or something like that, and Man, Unity. It is. It's look. It's serviceable. I'll give it that.
No,
But
apparently.
what do you think that Godot does better from your perspective, at least?
I think Godot is way better structured. I think Unity has a lot of legacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite an old engine, and I think they've been adding stuff on top of other things. And because they didn't want to completely destroy backwards compatibility, they didn't ever tear it down and build from scratch, because that's also very costly.
Sure.
So that's understandable. It's like you just take the lessons from what you've done and you actually make a new engine and just call it the next version. That's super costly, so companies don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And Godot is a relatively new engine. I think it's not been around for a decade. It's less than a decade, I believe.
I've only been hearing about it in maybe the past couple of years, to be honest. It certainly hadn't had any reasonable traction for until maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's getting more publicity, especially regarding the latest Unity controversies. On, I believe, a main Unity Reddit subreddit, there was a link to Godot titled "Switching to Godot." And it was just take you to the Godot website because of the controversies with Unity merger and new CEO and layoffs and stuff, canceling of awaited projects. Lots of stuff. But coming back to why I think Godot is better than Unity, I think Godot had the ability to take lessons from all the other engines that were out there. And it has a very simple and clear structure. In Unity, you have very different things. You have game objects, you have scriptable objects, you need C#. It doesn't have its built-in language. You need an third-party code editor, which is weird to me. It's probably not weird for people who started making games with Unity, because that's how things are. But I started with Blender Game Engine when that was a thing. And after 2-3 years playing with it, I realized it's just a bad idea. Blender should X that and spend the resources on other things. And, for example, work on better integration with other engines or Godot. And I think they made a good call to stop developing that and take it out, because it was never going to be really usable for large projects, in my opinion. And it was a huge pain. It was a mess as well. It was different than Unity, of course, but it was also a mess. And, people
Blender
were doing some
tries to
things.
Be an entire suite for not just developing games, but just a multimedia suite. You've got your 3D modeling, you've got your animation, you've got your video editing, you had a game engine. It's all of this stuff in one place. And I'm not a professional game dev. I don't really know what the place, if there would really be a place for using a different, I don't think anyone would ever make a full game using the Blender game engine. So it'd be there for prototyping. But I don't know why you'd want to prototype in something that was different from your actual game engine.
Yeah, people made the point that Blender's game engine was nice to quickly whip something up and just have a prototype. I could see a point of that, because you had logic bricks where you had inputs, logic operators, and outputs. You could just wire things together, and you could create quite complex logic, processing, keyboard and mouse inputs. Mouse? Yeah. No, mouse. I don't know if mouse was supported. I think you had to program in Python to get mouse look.
Oh, okay, sure.
I made an FPS prototype in that, but I made a couple games, small like games that never got anywhere in Blender Game Engine, and then when I found Godot, I was like, "Whoa, that's so much better! I'm never touching Blender Game Engine again." Yeah, so Godot has a very clear structure. Everything is a node.
Yeah.
And a node can have an underlying structure of nodes, and then it's called a scene.
Right, okay.
Your game is the so-called a scene tree. There is one node at top, and everything descends from that. You have a hierarchy. You have a tree.
Yes, yes.
It's a tree. So you have a root node, which I believe is your viewport, your main viewport, so the thing that renders things in the game window or on your screen. And everything is down from there, and you can organize this hierarchy however you want. And yeah, it's just very simple.
So when you're writing games in Godot, what are you actually writing it in?
I use GDScript, which is Godot's own programming language. It's heavily based on Python, but it's very well optimized for the game engine. It takes a little bit of getting used to because it's not exactly Python, and it has lots of unique things. Many people were like, why do you invent a new programming language for this game engine? Why not use something that exists already? And they explained that nothing that existed could be so well integrated and be as painless to use as GDScript. And really, GDScript is very nice to use. Like, when I see how much code you need to put into Unity to make a simplest thing, because you have all this C# boilerplate stuff and all those namespaces.
I love C#.
And then in
language.
And then in GDScript you have 2 lines of code and it does the same thing. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and it does definitely have a Python inspiration here, but there are things that obviously don't exist in Python, like constants, for example, where in Python it's like, it's a constant if you don't touch it.
If you yourself regard it as a constant, then it's a constant.
Yeah, but like, besides that, like, this would be a pretty easy language to at least wrap your head around the language structure. Obviously, the way the language works and the, how would you say it, the details, you were going to say details, I can't think of words right now. The, like, intricate details of language and the way it functions at a lower level would be much different, but at least learning the way to write it seems like it wouldn't take that long, to be honest.
Yeah, I like that they chose Python's syntax as a basis, because Python is very stripped down. It doesn't require you to put a colon at the end of every line. It like gets rid of a lot of pointless braces and shit.
Yeah.
I like that it's
Java.
It's stripped down. It's or wait, what is
my first programming language?
Schema. Schema. It's like parentheses everywhere.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. Schema. The Lisp dialect. Yeah.
Oh, Lisp. Yeah. Yeah. So there you have more syntax than code.
Yeah, you want to have.
You
like brackets? How do you feel about brackets?
Have some brackets. Yo, dog, I heard you like brackets, so I put brackets in your brackets.
No, Python is definitely like... I like Python. I know Python gets a lot of shit from people who like to complain about things they don't understand. But, like, the structure of Python is really nice. And I can understand why the hardcore Python guys really like the language. Obviously, there are other reasons why people like it as well. But, like, just that... just that by itself is honestly already enough of a reason to at least use it as that project and maybe adapt it to other things as well.
Yeah, I never got deep into Python. I made some custom add-on. Actually, it's just a script for Blender to do some things I did for work. But at this point, it's like if I have some complex problem I need to solve and I need a graphics user interface, I think I would just use Godot and GDScript because you can make tools in it. It has so much built in. You can process files. You can open. You have file dialogues. You can do networking very easily. Audio, video, it's just a nice framework for making interactive applications, not just games.
And being a game engine, it will use your GPU, unlike certain versions of GTK that didn't use your GPU until very recently. As in,
oh man,
now,
really?
Yeah, GTK didn't use your GPU until
Oh.
GTK 4. That's why it was useless for developing games. I think that was like a way to hack it in, but it didn't have it got Vulkan support in GTK 4. No one's gonna use it to make games because why would you use GTK to make a game? But it's there.
Yeah, it's not for. I don't know.
But no, I do know.
Okay,
a couple of,
I didn't even know.
There are a couple of projects I've
seen
that do use Godot to actually build a general app, and that's cool. It makes sense why you might want to use one of the frameworks that are designed around building apps. But if there's something that Godot does for you, or you just want to approach it in a different way, it seems like an interesting way to approach it.
Yeah, I guess it's one of the few tools I know, so everything looks like a nail because that's my hammer. Mm-hmm. Of course, people who know how to make graphics user interfaces in Python or whatever, they will use that, mm-hmm. and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I learned Godot, and as a side effect, I can wield that to do something else in games, some mm-hmm. extra tools. I was thinking about, for example, making a remote for my stream setup, because you can very easily run your game in a web or on mobile.
Yeah.
And I could have just some touch buttons and the slider, and I could use Godot networking to run another Godot game, an application on my desk that will receive that over Wi-Fi and run some bash commands to send MIDI messages or OSC. Actually, Godot can send out MIDI on its own. It's just to control, OBS or things.
Yeah, OBS does have it's a bit flaky, but there is a OBS WebSocket plugin. I don't know if it's working right now, but
I tried to get it to work and I couldn't.
Yeah, I didn't think so. It works
Maybe
a very specific version, and but it's very poorly maintained, so it'll usually be a couple of versions behind. And yeah, how do you actually use OBS? Do you just install it as a native package? Do you use the Flatpak? What do you do?
I'm on Arch Linux, so I just use the repository provided package. It's usually quite updated. Why?
The one in the main Arch repos? Have they fixed it yet? Does it have the browser source?
Wait, let me check. Actually.
Because last time I used it, they hadn't compiled it properly and they refused to fix it.
Yeah, I certainly do have a browser source because I use that for bringing in people to my live streams.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they
using
did fix
Video
it.
Ninja. Maybe he did, or maybe I'm not actually using I'm using the official package, version 27.2.4. So I think they must have fixed. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm using an additional thing called OBS-Linux browser-bin from
the one
AUR.
Yes. Okay.
All right, and also OBS-Qt
No, so the one in the main repos. The reason why it's broken is so for the browser source, it relies on CEF Chromium, CEF Chromium Minimal, which is like a embedded Chromium. But the version that OBS needs isn't the version that is in the repos. They use their own different version number, so it's always a little bit behind or a little bit ahead of what is available on Arch. So if the Arch team wanted to have OBS working properly, they would need to have a separate version of CEF in the repos, which they don't do. So they just refuse to fix it and ship a broken version, which is why I use the Flatpak instead, because it doesn't have that issue. Because it just ships, the dependencies in one thing.
I see. Yeah, I just worked it around by installing an additional
that's
browser
what everybody
tool.
does. No, nobody uses the main version if you need the browser source.
I had no idea why the basic tool doesn't work. I assumed it's just something.
No,
I didn't
like
know
there's
it
always
was
posts
this
on the
version
OBS
mismatch.
forum. Sorry.
I didn't know it was this version mismatch because of Arch packaging.
Yeah, there's always posts over on the OBS forum like, hey, why is this feature missing from the Linux version? And they don't specify the fact they're on Arch, because every other distro it doesn't have this problem. It's just Arch.
Yeah, I guess Arch people need to be smart enough to figure this out on their own.
What is
man.
what is your background in programming? You just someone who picked it up as a hobby and now you're doing it more, or do you have some formal education?
No, I'm actually quite a self-learner in pretty much everything I do. I started programming like in 2000s when I got my first PC running Windows 95, and I got Turbo Pascal on it, and I started writing silly programs, having fun, mad fun, and like, yeah. Then I was playing with Delphi, with graphical user interfaces, trying to make some Trojan where you can, open a close people's CD trays remotely. We had some fun with friends, but we didn't ever do anything malicious.
That's what someone who's done something malicious would say.
Yes, of course. Then I kind of dropped programming because I got sucked into making music. But then I picked it up again when I switched to Linux and figured out, wow, the terminal is a powerful tool. So I kind of got back into programming because of Bash. And the funny thing is, I worked for like 2 and something, maybe 3 years in a company where I actually developed in-house software for production in fucking Bash. It was Bash scripts.
Oh god.
Running 24/7. Being a local server. I also used Syncthing as a file exchange between people using the service and the server. And I don't know if the company still exists, honestly. I don't know. Maybe the pandemic killed them off. But yeah, they never called back when I left the company, so I assume it all works.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like this alien piece of tech that it just keeps working, but they don't want to ever touch anything because they don't know what will happen.
I wrote documentation for it all.
Oh, that's good.
In case they would want to hire someone to take care of it, but it seemed like they didn't care. So I didn't care too much either. Yeah, it was fun. So Bash got me back into programming, and then I learned Godot, and I got into it a bit more because I wanted to make something actually playable in it, which didn't happen so much yet, but I think I'm getting there.
I've seen the demos. It's playable. You're just missing, character models and textures for the maps.
Yeah, I mean, there's an old version of Liblast you can download and play, but I've realized all my code was really bad. I didn't know why it was bad when I wrote it.
Yeah.
But then I binged watch a lot of tutorials on YouTube about common programming mistakes and programming patterns, and I realized, oh, okay, I made everything coupled with everything. That's why it's so bad. You can't take the player character and test it in a separate scene because it actually has a static reference to where the heads-up display is and where the level is, and
where does the character have a reference to that?
So bad. Yeah, I didn't know any better. So for the past 5 months, 6 months, I've been reworking pretty much everything and doing it actually properly, where it's decoupled, it's using signals to communicate with things up the hierarchy, and using lots of classes to make things modular.
We love classes.
It's taken a lot of time, but I'm really happy with how it's going, and I think it's going to be a really nice foundation for a really nice game.
This is the eternal woe of every single programmer. You never look back at your old code because you don't want to rewrite it.
I mean,
To be fair,
it's the
in your
sign that
case,
you're
you probably
making
should have
progress.
rewrote it.
No, I'm looking back at it and I'm like, oh man, this is a mess.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
gonna delete that and start over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm keeping the old code as reference because there are some good ideas there. Some things I spent hours figuring out. I don't want to just throw it out. I want to reuse it in a good way. But all the framework around had to go.
I've never done.
Being slowly rebuilt.
I've never done any sort of music production, but I imagine it's sort of similar in that way, where you'll work on a track, you'll leave it there, and then come back to it like a while later. Like, I didn't realize all of this stuff that was wrong with it.
Yeah, it's like that.
I think anything creative is sort of going to be like that, whether it's videos, music, programming. If you just leave it for long enough, you're going to learn more, and you're going to realize that everything you did was terrible and you hate it.
Yeah, I think it kind of plateaus with time. Plateau. I don't know how to, because when you cross a certain threshold of experience and understanding of the craft, you no longer do terrible things, basically. So when you look back, you're like, yeah, I could have done it a bit differently. I would tweak it a little bit, but it's fine. I like it. So it's like when I'm still listening to my previous album that I released, I don't know, 5 years ago. My goodness. I'm still like it. I think it's a really good piece of work, even though I've learned quite a lot since then. But so when I finally finish the next album, which maybe will happen this year, no, probably next year.
Don't give it a time frame. It won't be done by then.
Yeah, I'm never announcing when it's coming out. It's coming out when it's ready.
Only announce it when it's done.
Yeah. It's like, hey, premiere tomorrow. Surprise. After 6-7 years since the last release. Yeah, because I'm doing music and game development and videos.
Yeah,
it's hard to finish one huge task and just be done with it. So it's like I'm switching between them.
Yeah. I think it's probably for the best to not be like stuck doing one thing, because you can get like stuck in your own head about like just the nitty gritty details of something, and if you don't give yourself some break from that to go and work on something that has nothing to do with it, I think there's like a point where you start losing that like productivity. Like if you just keep working on videos and do nothing but videos, like you'll probably make great videos, but I feel like you need to take a break, even if it's a break to still be productive on something else, but it needs to be a break just in some form.
Yeah, like flush your headspace.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Reboot this project in your mind. Dump it off your RAM. So then you can... I think it's a very good thing. So I am making this new album for 5 years. I don't know. Some tracks have been started, 5 years ago, 4 or 3 years ago. And I'm coming back to them, every year. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool, but this sucks. I'm going to review this part, and that's going to be really nice. So I think it's a very slow process, but because I don't have, I'm not signed for any distributor. I don't have a contract that I don't have a deadline. I can spend however much time I want on it. And I think the end result is going to be really nice because of all this polish and like thousands of my different states from the past have been looking at that and trying to improve it. And not just one state of me.
I think the problem you have with the problem that maybe you don't have this problem that I have with not having any sort of like deadline there is sometimes I will tend to procrastinate stuff. It's like I should get this done, but like I could not do it. That's an option.
Yeah, definitely. Some time ago, when I was like between jobs, I was trying to keep up a schedule of publishing videos and like minimum of 2 every month. So I was like aiming to make a video every 2 weeks. But when I started a new job, it kind of fell apart because I really didn't have the energy just to keep it going. So
Yeah.
I'm still kind of getting back into it. But also I got more into making Liblast game development. So, and it kind of helps me rest, and editing videos seems like a chore now. It is work.
Yeah,
It is fun,
everyone I
but it
speak
is
to says
work.
that video editing's like they love video editing. For me, video editing is the least enjoyable part of the video process. Like, I enjoy the research, I enjoy the recording. When I get to editing, even though my editing's not that complex, like, it's really simple. I just cut things together. It's like, I don't want to do this bit. Can I just get someone else to do it?
Can I get an AI to do it for me?
Look, I'll accept just a person. I don't even need, like, some fancy sentient Google AI.
Yeah, so I actually I've put an announcement on my Mastodon that I'm seeking for a person who would like to do some editing work for me. Because I could pay someone from the Patreon money because I want to keep going, but I see that editing is kind of keeping me down because it's so time consuming. It's you prepare in 1 hour, 2 hours, you record in 1 hour, and then you're editing for 8 hours or 12 hours, you know? And I kind of don't want to half-ass it. And even if I try to, I end up getting excited and doing way too much work. And then I don't even... I often feel like people don't really appreciate that extra work. Like, they just want to get the content and like the extra details that I'm like, taking a detour to make a silly animation in Blender just for a stupid joke, and it's taking me hours.
Yep.
And it's like 5 seconds in the video, and like people just don't notice because they play it in the background or something. So I kind of try to make the editing part more fun by doing these kind of silly things.
Yeah.
But also sometimes I feel like it's a waste of time.
Yeah, video editing very much suffers from the 80-20 rule. 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort. And you can spend, you could spend 30, 40 hours editing a video, but you're not, like, most of that time's completely wasted. Like, that first 5 to 8 hours it's gonna get you pretty much everything anyone's gonna care about. Anything past that, that's sort of like, someone might appreciate it, but for the most part, the only one that's really going to be paying attention to it is, like, your ego. It's like, this... I know this is great, but nobody else realizes how much work was actually put into this.
Yeah, like, if you cut off this last 20% of quality that took you hours and hours of work, 95% of people wouldn't notice.
Yeah, it's very important to realize when a piece is done. Just accept that it's as good as it needs to be, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I think that's a very important lesson for everyone who's doing creative work. To learn that done is better than perfect, and nothing is ever perfect. And also, what is perfect in your head, nobody really knows. And they won't notice when the things they see here are off from your imaginary perfection.
Yeah.
So it's kind of obsessive to try and make things perfect. And I was talking about making this album over years and years. Like, if I could take, a month off of work and just focus on it, I think I could finish it in 1 month. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. And there's still many things that are not good enough. Just they kind of suck. But yeah, polishing things until perfection is a really unproductive thing, and it just kills your motivation to do anything at all.
I think what you've probably noticed this as well, but like, as you go on, like, you might get to a point where you think something is perfect, especially like early on. Like, when you don't have as much of a framework to understand what is actually good, you'll think that what you've done is perfect, but you come back to it later. Like, probably that code you wrote, you probably thought it was really good at the time. But as you get more experience over time, you realize that what you thought was good then maybe wasn't as good. Like, obviously, you still appreciate, like, your older music that you've done, but I'm sure if you look at it now, like, there are things that you may have changed about it that you just didn't think of at the time.
Yeah, there's also this that I keep learning about different techniques, different ideas of making sounds. And what I've noticed is when I'm working on this new album and I'm coming back to tracks after a couple of years, it's like, oh, I've seen this new thing, and I've seen someone that did this. I want to try it, and I add something new, and it's a completely different sound that I've never made before. And it's like, I won't remember to do this, in 10 years when I'm going to do another album. So it's also like everything is different because you have different ideas, influences. And when you give some time to complete a creative project, you can accumulate a bit more of these influences and interesting ideas, and hopefully the end result has more depth to it, thanks to that.
How long have you been doing music for?
I started around 2014. No, 2004.
Oh, that's a big difference.
Yeah, I started on proprietary and pirated software.
Oh.
I started on Fruity Loops 5. So maybe it was 2005, because I don't know. I think it was like 2004.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, Fruity Loops or FL Studio is like one of the most popular music making.
Oh, I've only ever heard it called FL Studio. Okay, that.
Yeah, the thing with the strawberry for a logo.
I didn't know it was good. I didn't know that was his name. Wait, what? I didn't know that was his name.
Yeah, the FL stands for Fruity Loops.
Okay, sure.
Because I think like they pivoted the program quite early, so the old name doesn't really reflect what it is. So they just kind of shorten it. Same like LMMS, which is an open source program very inspired by early versions of FL Studio, was called Linux Multimedia Studio, which didn't make any sense because it was running on Windows as well, and it wasn't multimedia, it was just sound. So they dropped the full name, and they're just, it's officially named LMMS, which doesn't stand for anything now.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Same with like Gardner Bryant. He was like, his channel was named The Linux Gamer.
Yeah.
And then he dropped that and started calling himself TLG. And then he dropped that, and he's now just GB. Gardner Bryant. Yeah, so the funny things. Oh, I wanted to go back into video editing.
Yes.
Because you mentioned like GPU acceleration for GTK4. And GTK3 not having that.
Yes.
And this reminds me of my long and painful search for a good open source video editor.
Yep.
Maybe you've heard this rant.
I've seen your video. I've made a similar one.
Yeah, I made a video called Kdenlive 18 is a garbage fire.
Yeah, there was I'm sure you've seen the comments, but from what I saw, there was a lot of not happy Kdenlive users in that one.
Yeah. So my huge problem is that all the video editors I could find on Linux, that open source video editors, were only rendering image on the CPU. And even worse, in a single thread.
Yup.
What the fuck?
Kdenlive now does have experimental multi-threaded. The GPU stuff, it says it's there. It's not. I think the timeline is GPU accelerated now, which doesn't matter at all.
I mean,
unless you're doing 4K
it just shows
stuff.
you the blocks.
Yeah. you can like play back stuff and it doesn't lag. I don't care. I'm fine with a bit of lag.
Okay. Yeah, it's like all the video editors were fine as long as you're not compositing anything. If you just drop a video and you want to cut out some parts and just glue it together, fine. You can probably play like 30 frames per second in 1080p.
We won't go up to good, but I'll say fine. That's acceptable.
Yes, it's usable.
Sure.
But as soon as you try to do something more advanced, like do a green screen composite, add the logo, add some animated text, like, I don't know, add a blurred background behind a video that is, wrong aspect ratio, anything more than just the super freaking basic stuff, it starts showing you 5 frames per second a preview and rendering an hour video in
a bigger
all
CPU.
Yeah. Yeah, I made a script for Kdenlive, so it would take the project and cut it up into pieces.
Yeah.
And run rendering in parallel of these pieces, so it would saturate my CPU at least. Because
now there is like a toggle in the render output. You can be like, slide it up to the number of threads you want, and it does it, which is good.
I think I tried it last year and it didn't work for shit.
Oh.
It just corrupted everything.
Oh, okay. Well, it seems to work fine now.
Maybe it's fine now. I don't know. I don't want to.
That's a stopgap. It's still not the GPU. I don't want to render it on my CPU. That's not.
Yeah.
It's got
20 fucking 22.
The G stands for graphics. Let me render the graphics on the graphics processing unit.
Yes. It's designed to do that fast. Yeah, that's why when I first started with Blender for video editing, it almost gave me cancer. I switched to Kdenlive. It almost sucked my soul, and then I collapsed and I was ready to try DaVinci Resolve, which is not open source.
It's not.
But it didn't run.
Yeah, DaVinci is a pain in the ass to get running on anything. What is it officially spawned on? Like OpenSUSE? Something like that?
I think CentOS.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I think they officially support CentOS. Only CentOS.
Check. Yeah, go on.
I tried to get it to work. It didn't. So I was thinking about, I don't know, maybe giving up editing videos and just pressing record and stopping and uploading again, as I did many years ago after I burned out editing in Blender, and I get back to editing videos like a year later, and I said, I'm not doing any editing at all. Fuck it. But then I found Olive. And Olive is the messiah of open source video editing. It has 2 versions, 0.1 and 0.2. And I use 0.1 for production. It's labeled as alpha, but it's more stable than Kdenlive.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. And there's 0.2, which is near complete rewrite, and it has cool features like a deep color pipeline where you can take 10-bit footage or 12-bit footage and color grade it. And it has a timeline caching and nodes compositing, but it's not fully ready. I will try and I am actually editing. I've been editing for like months now, a video using it, but it wasn't Olive's fault that I'm editing it so long. It's just I kind of lost my my momentum, and I will try to use it for next videos.
If you can find a version that's of 0.2 that's good, I'd be happy to use it. So every time I try 0.2, I don't know if I'm just unlucky or there's something wrong with my system, but there's been a memory leak, and if I try to render a 10-minute video, it uses 32 gigs of RAM.
Yes.
Okay,
and then 64 gigs of swap.
Yeah. Okay, it's not just me.
I added this much to my system. I added 64 gigs of swap just for video rendering.
Okay. So
on an SSD, so it's usable.
Sure.
Yeah, that bug is fixed, by the way. It was fixed, I think, like month or 2 ago. I've been like
there for a year.
Yeah, like
wait, did he never try to render anything?
No, actually Matt KC, who's the sole developer of Olive. He has a YouTube channel.
He does.
And he has videos with millions of views, which is
does.
quite amazing. So he has a good motivation to make this video editor good because he's using it for his own stuff, which is better than Unity Game Engine because they don't make games. And they canceled the only fucking game they've been making. Not encouraging. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, I'm constantly in touch with Matt.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I know, go on.
I'm actually... Okay, sorry. Because I'm actually like doing some video editing for work. And I'm like, every Friday I have some time to do video editing.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly in communication with Matt. I'm reporting problems as I go. And he's often fixing them on the spot.
Wow.
Which is quite amazing. Every week I get a new alpha build from the website and I make another video with it. I have some performance issues. The preview is quite slow and choppy for now, but it's getting quite usable.
That's good. I'm looking at the repo right now. He does a lot of work. Like every day there's stuff going up.
Yeah.
I should go and give... for a long time, I was using Olive 0.1. And I think I used it for like a year or so. So I really do like Olive. But I started to have a couple of issues with it where it just... I don't know if it's just my system or something like that, but I was having more crashes than I used to have, which... wasn't a lot, but it's still like a little bit annoying. And I found the project recovery was just nowhere near as good as what Kdenlive has. That's one of the things Kdenlive's great at. It crashes a lot, but it recovers your project pretty well.
Yeah, that's certainly a redeeming quality when you have unstable software.
Also, some of the effects I was like. I noticed effects started breaking in Olive as well. Like, I couldn't drag an image in, for example. Like, if I dragged an image in, it was a frame long. But I'd used it at a previous time, and that was working. I don't know why.
Yeah, I had the exact same problem, and I asked Matt about it. And he said that he recommends to use the app image version of Olive 0.1.
Okay.
Because it comes with bundled FFmpeg.
Oh.
And FFmpeg is a dependency that is used to decode media.
Yeah.
And something changed in FFmpeg, and it broke how images are imported into Olive 0.1. So I have the same problem because I wanted to add community effects for Olive 0.1 because there's some nice little effects that I use. So I endured that by using time stretch to slow down the image sequence.
Yep.
So it's like one frame, but it's...
So I'm like, let's slow it down by 500%, and then again until I get it to the right length. Yeah.
I mean, you can set the length to whatever you want, and it just calculates the percentage, 0.00001. But the bad thing is then you can't animate it because the keyframes are all wrong.
Yeah.
But you can nest the image sequence in a new sequence, and then you can animate. It's a mess. Yes, I know. In Olive 0.2, it works well. And also Olive 0.2 has I think, pretty much airtight crash recovery right now.
Okay.
I've been really pushing for it because I think crash recovery is a must in any creative software.
Yeah.
Because one of the most disheartening things is to see your hard work just gone.
Especially when you're very forgetful and you forget to save the project and you edit the entire thing.
And often when you get excited about something, you forget. You just come into the flow and you're like, oh, awesome, I'm doing progress. Oh shit, I didn't save. So now Olive 0.2 has a recovery system where it keeps... I set it to make a backup every minute.
Yeah.
And to keep 20 versions of my project. And it when you open up after a crash, or you can just open this up manually from preferences, it shows you a list of projects it knows. And every project has a list of backups it knows. It's it keeps everything. And even if you don't specify a name for your project, you just open it and start doing things, it keeps a backup of that. I just recommend to set the autosave interval to minimum for maximum safety, and then like I don't think I lost any substantial progress to any crash in recent months.
Wow.
I did have a problem some time ago where it didn't work perfectly and I lost some work. But I think in recent months I've been using Olive 0.2. The recovery was very reliable.
What about the node editor? Because when I last used it, I think it was still very early stages, so it was like real weird to move around. It like it didn't have what you'd expect. Like just moving around, just the graph space didn't feel like any other sort of graph you'd ever use. Like it felt like there was just I don't know if there were slide bars in it. You had to like maybe there were. I don't know. How's the node editing at this point?
It had a lot of improvements. It's not fully polished, I think.
Yeah.
There's some things that could be improved and I hope will be. But you can pan around with the middle mouse click, I believe.
Yeah.
You can zoom in and out with control mouse wheel. There's a mini-map where you can see like where you are in relation to your entire graph. You can route nodes, of course.
Yeah.
If you insert a new node, you can plop it on a connection. If you like drag it and drop it on a highlighted connection and just insert it, insert it between two nodes, which is nice. Sometimes when it doesn't work, I just cut a node, Control X, and then paste it so it gets into this droppable state, so I can drop it on a connection instead of manually routing input and output, because that's kind of... There's lots of improvements that could be done on the managing connections side. I think like I've been working with Unity's shader graph a lot recently, and it has a pretty nice way of doing it. Blender node editor also is very nice, so I hope they can take some cues. But I think it's becoming usable. I've been able to do some fun effects, even like, you know, cutting out something and putting it as a part, like, I don't know, using an image, cutting a hole in it, compositing it with someone's face.
Wow.
Or like doing a censorship pixelation effect where you, like, you know, because there's an effect that's called mosaic, which pretty much just pixelates something. Or you can use blur.
Yeah.
And it's kind of clunky because you need to like do all the steps yourself. You need to create a shape that will be your mask. You need to blur the source image, then multiply it with the shape to like crop it to the shape or apply it as a mask, and then combine it, merge it on top of your footage. But it works.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like there's plans for making node groups where you could build complex effects, reusable effects from the basic nodes, which is
that's something that's kind of essential for it to be really like efficient.
Yes, because then you could have, you know, a list of presets, share your node groups, and that would make a lot of sense. But there's still a lot of work on the basics that it's being done to... So Matt is not like skipping ahead to the cool stuff before he's sure that the foundation is solid. And I think that's a good idea, because many projects just add features and never make them fully reliable, and then you're just, oh, it's so exciting, but it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, I've certainly noticed that for a lot of things. It was like, hey, the cool and shiny effects sort of get people's attention, but you skip over the fundamentals. And the fundamentals are the thing that, like, you really notice on a long-term usage.
Yes, that is certainly true. And I think that's quite natural, because with open source software, we do it because we like doing it, and we're doing it for ourselves. So it's more exciting to add features and have, you know, exciting screenshots to share, instead of just typing fixed this, fixed that. And debugging is never as fun.
Speaking of fundamentals, you're using Pipewire at this point, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I've been using it like for half a year now.
How is your Pipewire experience? I've been using Pipewire. I started again, I think, like 3 months ago. I've really been enjoying it. It's been rock solid for me.
Same. I am surprised. I actually forgot it's there. Which is the best thing possible, because that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to just manage your sound and not get in your way. I'm not experiencing any issues with it right now. It's really weird. I can't say anything that like switch to Pipewire, but be wary of. I'm pretty much like, yeah, I think you can switch to Pipewire. I always recommend people to have a backup in case something breaks in their specific system configuration.
Yeah.
I should make a tutorial about setting up Pipewire, because I have a video tutorial about preparing Manjaro for audio production.
Yeah.
Which was quite a lengthy tutorial, and I actually installed it on bare metal on my laptop. And not in a virtual machine, because that's not good enough. Virtual machines don't always want to work the same with audio.
Yeah.
And also no graphics, no GPU acceleration, so it's also weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I used Jack and Pulse Audio in combined, like meshed together via a plugin for Pulse Audio. That it worked well enough, but Pipewire is so much better. It like brings all the devices together.
Yeah.
You can do amazing things like record from your Bluetooth headset into Ardor. That's so crazy. You can't do that any other way unless you're like an awesome magician who can create custom config files. And you can just drag and drop a connection and it works. It's amazing. It's useless, but it's amazing.
Yeah, from my experience of using it, like one thing I will commonly do with my game streams is I will have. I didn't realize how useful having Jack was until I had it set up with Pipewire, where I can have my game audio and my music separated. Crazy! Imagine that being a thing. I just make the Jack client in OBS. I use right now I'm using QPW graph, but I've messed around with QJack CTL a bit, and I'm probably going to swap back over to that because I'm having problems with QPW graph. But I bring that open, I connect the things up, and it just does it. It's like crazy. And like it's got a patch bay built in as well, so stuff disconnects, reconnects straight away. It just works.
Oh, it auto reconnects things?
Yeah.
For you?
It's not as nice as QJack CTLs, but it does the job.
For my live streaming and recording videos setup, I use Carla. It's a program for hosting plugins and managing connections.
Yep.
And I'm actually running a bash script that's just reconnecting things on loop.
Yep.
Like every second it connects things again, because stuff like, I don't know, my MIDI keyboard likes to disconnect because it has a bad USB socket.
Yeah.
Damn you, M Audio. And things like that happen, like something crashes and disconnects. So yeah. I didn't
have a better
investigate.
Solution than just a bash script in a loop.
There probably are better solutions, but I don't know. It seemed easier for me to do a bash script than another graphical user interface program.
Yeah.
Also,
I guess you could use the patch bay and like QJack CTL, but then it's just like another thing that's always running, and yeah. So I have this huge bash script that manages everything and starts applications and routes them together. So hopefully it's just one click, and I have my OBS studio with audio processing and everything ready. With assuming your settings don't get deleted.
Yeah, like they did. So yeah, I whipped up a basic setup just right before this recording, because I've realized my settings got, I think I had delete somewhere and saved it over. But I do nearly daily incremental backups, so I'm gonna find it. I just need to find where.
I think the only problem I've had with Pipewire is a problem of my own doing. So I use both Xorg and Wayland. Don't do this. Bad idea. So when you jump back and forth between Xorg and Wayland, some things like Pipewire and Pipewire video specifically are not very happy about this happening. So every time I swap over to Wayland, I actually have a launch script for Sway at this point, which will kill the XDG portal, restart Pipewire, just to make sure that it doesn't think the Xorg is still running and just not know what to do. I don't know why it happens. All I know is that killing it and restarting it fixes it, and that's fine. That's all that needs to happen. But like, for a normal setup where you're not doing this, it's great.
I wanted to try Wayland, but when I started looking for guides, I stumbled upon an article on Arch Linux Wiki, and there's like a whole article called Wayland Showstoppers or something like that.
Yup.
So I clicked that and I read that, oh, this is missing, this is broken, this is, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna have that.
This is my favorite one that I like to bring to everyone. Do you use hotkeys in OBS? To like change?
Sometimes I do.
You don't on Wayland. They don't work. You can't use them.
Also, I use a program to show my mouse clicks and what I'm typing, because when I'm doing tutorials, it's nice if people can rewind and look. What was that shortcut?
Yeah. There is a program to do this on WL roots based compositors, not on anything else. And the mouse click, I don't think exists. Yeah.
Because Wayland has proper security, so you can't have just a keylogger.
You can't
working.
Well, you can have a keylogger, but
if you have to
do it and you have to run it as root, which is not a good idea.
So it's harder to snoop on someone's keystrokes and stuff, but it's also harder to have a tool to show your mouse clicks and keystrokes. There's I've seen a video there's one program that does this on Wayland, and it's not developed anymore. It's quite limited. I don't know. Have you had any experiences recording videos on Wayland, screencasting and OBS? Does it work at all?
Yes. I've done a couple of videos. Usually when I'm talking about Wayland, I record it on Wayland just for the memes. Wayland is fine if you don't make videos. It's serviceable, we'll say. So here's the thing, right? Your Wayland experience depends on what your compositor is based on. So if it's KDE or GNOME, you're going to have a very different experience from anything based on WL roots. WL roots is what the general window managers are based on, like Sway and Wayfire and things like that. Where was I going with this? What was I answering? Something about making.
How's the experience of screencasting on recording videos on Wayland?
Right, that's what. Okay, so on GNOME, you can capture windows, right? You can capture you want to capture your browser, or you want to capture your Carla window or whatever. You can do that. You can't do that on anything else, but you can capture your screen, which is fine. So you can make it work. For some reason in WL Roots and KDE, there isn't a way for the XDG portal to track the location of the window, so you just can't do that. Here's the big problem though, because of this weird security model. Every time you open up OBS, if you have, let's say you have 2 screen captures, you have to reassign the screen captures every time you open it because it can't remember it.
Oh no!
Which is fine if you capture 1 screen, but if you capture 2 screens, depending on which compositor you're on, because you can the way the portal works is different on GNOME, KDE, and then WL Reaching, just configure it however you want. It may not tell you what source you're actually configuring, so you have to remember which order they load in, but they might not load in the same order, so you might actually set things, and then it actually sets them in the wrong order if you go back and fix them.
So it's a bit of trial and error too, like every time you just start OBS.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's not. I'm gonna stay away for now, because what I need for my work is to capture a screen, but also capture individual windows. It's like
not happening.
I use KDE, and I have multiple virtual desktops, and I have so that full screen applications cannot disable compositing. And that's an important thing for me, because if you have compositing on, you can have different application windows on a virtual desktop that you don't see on any screen, but they are still rendered, and you can capture them into OBS.
Oh,
which is really cool, because I made a special overlay in Godot that monitors programs like Ardor, Zrhythm, Bespokes, and stuff for audio production, and it checks if they crash, and it shows an animation, an explosion, and a sound effect, and it like shows the logo of the program like falling apart into and the confetti.
Sure.
And yeah, because why not? Because this is what I do, because otherwise things are boring. And so I have this on a black background somewhere stashed on a virtual desktop, and I capture this window into OBS, and I do a Luma key, so I cut off the blackness and composite it. But when something like disables compositing, because it's a full screen application, it tries to save performance, then these windows cannot be rendered into an invisible desktop, and all this stuff doesn't work.
That's really cool. I never even thought of that being a thing.
Yeah, there is even an option in Godot to like render a transparent window. So you can capture a window in OBS in RGBA format. So it actually has like its own alpha channel, which is crazy powerful, because you can have pretty much anything you want. The limitation is you can't have some specific like post-processing effects in Godot. Like you can't have bloom or, I don't know, depth of field. And I wanted to have these effects to make the explosion more explodey. It's a little thing that sweetens the deal when something just blows up.
No, I get it.
It actually makes it fun. It makes it nice. You're kind of happy it blown up, because it was fun. You're not sour anymore that you lost stuff, or
well, that's what the backups are for.
Yeah, they mostly work. Ardor used to have bad crash recovery. I hammered the developers to fix that, because it's like the most important thing. If you can't have stable software, everything will crash at some point.
Sure.
If it's not because of the software itself, it's because of the plugins you put into the software. So, and they fixed some problems with it. Finally, it's reliable, because it used to not trigger when I did like 3/4 of my work. Like, it only triggered if you edit audio or record audio, and if you edit MIDI or you tweak plugin parameters, like make a synth patch, which is like 80% of what I do. It will not make a recovery copy. Just that stuff is not important. And then it crashes, and it's like 30 minutes of my life has just gone down the drain. So I was angry. So they fixed it. Anyway, what was I talking about? You're about Wayland and screen capture, and that you have limitations.
Don't use Wayland. It's terrible for you.
Yeah, that would be a pain.
Unless you want to use GNOME.
No.
Then don't use it.
I can't like fathom using GNOME. I got into KDE when I was using a Linux distribution aimed for audio production. It was called KX Studio.
Yeah.
The project still exists. It packages audio software for Debian-based systems. So you can plug this as a repository for Ubuntu or Debian or other Linux Mint, that kind of stuff. And you can have access to things that are not in the vanilla repositories of these distros, or packages that are greatly outdated there. So it's a great thing. And it used to have its own ISO download. And I used that, and it only used KDE. And I was like, okay, let's learn a new desktop. And it was like, wow, that's so good. I'm never going to use anything else again. So I'm staying with KDE ever since.
My hope with Wayland... So the good thing about Wayland is KDE and the WL Roots guys are working together on open standards. So they are trying to, like, make the Wayland desktop better. GNOME is trying to be Apple. We can just ignore them. They're doing their own thing. They're like doing their own different thing, and like it's turning into a weird walled garden thing. GNOME is gonna GNOME. But WL Roots and KDE, they are working together on open standards to make the desktop better. So things like XDG portals, that didn't come from them. The layer shell, for example, like previously, you couldn't have a dock that worked the way that it works on KDE. So the dock on KDE is drawn outside of the compositor. So it's treated like a regular window, like just any other window on your system. On GNOME, it's drawn by the compositor. And it doesn't really mean much to the user, but KDE would have to like completely redesign their architecture. And what happened is they designed this plugin, and WL Roots are using it as well now, where the dock can just decide how it wants to be drawn. And it just does, like, it makes things smoother for the developer, and it allows them to actually build stuff up like this. And other stuff is just generally happening with just working on open standards, like, you know, the Pipewire video capture and things like that are slowly getting it to the point where it's becoming usable. Like, a year ago, Wayland was unusable for video capture because you couldn't capture video unless you used the GNOME video capture tool, basically. OBS wasn't usable until very recently. Some of that work came from a GNOME dev, so it's not like GNOME is entirely bad. It's just, you know, yeah. Things are getting better on Wayland. My guess, maybe 5 years, and we get to the point where it's probably comparable to where Xorg is right now from a use perspective. Because Wayland started, obviously, as like a very, you know, minimal and simple protocol. And that just doesn't work for the real-world applications that people want to have from their systems. And it's slowly been built up over time. We're almost at the point where it's pretty good. The way I generally describe Wayland to people is Wayland is a great protocol to use. It's great if you like skip the gaping holes in the ground that will destroy your entire workflow. If what you're doing ignores the gaping holes, it's great. For me, though, I jump directly into most of them, so it's not.
Yeah, I think my experience would be similar to yours.
Yeah.
Video capture and video production is an important part of my work.
Yeah. X Wayland, though, is pretty good. I have not had many issues running X applications under Wayland.
I wonder how it would work with... I guess it's not possible to have like a keystroke and mouse activity overlay that is made for Xorg work via X Wayland, because
there are
permissions and stuff.
So there are weird hacks you can do with Wayland. Someone actually wrote a theoretical keylogger. Someone actually wrote a keylogger a couple of years back for Wayland.
Yes!
It can be. You can make a keylogger for Wayland. It's just you have to do some stupid stuff. And if you actually ran it on your system, you're a moron because you have to like. If you manage to convince someone to like get this keylogger running in their system, you basically have hardware access anyway. So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Just take the input directly from their keyboard. Just point a camera at it or something. I don't know. But so with X Wayland, there's a really dumb thing you can do where X Wayland is actually like a full X server. So what you could do if you really wanted to is you can actually just normally when you run X Wayland, it's just being run for an individual window. You can actually run it in this other state called a rootful window, and you can embed an entire X session inside of Wayland.
So I guess then keystroke display
Anything
would
inside
work
of the
in
session
that context, right?
It will work, yes.
So I could have like all my everything I need to screencast inside of that container.
Yes.
And then
Or you could just
have
use
OBS
Xorg.
outside and capture the or
Yes.
just use Xorg. Yeah.
I think there might be a way to like actually capture stuff from the regular X Wayland windows, but I'm not 100% sure on that. All I know
So you said
is
that-
it's dumb. Yes.
So you said there's a way to capture an individual window, but it doesn't track when it's moving. So
Okay,
if you move
so-
away the window, it just
No.
loses it.
So because sorry, I might have misspoke there. Because there's not a way to track where the window location is, there's not a way to actually capture the individual windows. GNOME
But you
has
can
that
select a
functionality.
region of yours. You can just select a region on your screen, right? I guess.
No, you can capture the whole screen and then crop it down,
Yeah.
which is basically the same thing.
Yeah. But it's useless for advanced stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you keep the window on the right, in like that place you never move it, it's fine. It's technically a window capture.
Yeah.
A
I'm
really
gonna write a
inefficient
bash
one.
script to put it in there. So, honestly, I do that. I do have my bash script puts windows in certain positions and resizes them.
Mhm.
But again, I don't know if there's any tools on to do that kind of stuff on Wayland.
How are
Can
you
you use
doing
command
on
line to
Xorg?
manage your windows?
Are you doing it through like
I'm using xdo tool and
no.
xset
Or actually, if you gave up
and
KDE,
wmctl, I believe. So window manager.
if you gave up KDE and used something WL roots based, I think there's something called, is it called YDO tool? I want to say it's YDO tool. There is, so WL roots basically takes the concept of Wayland and says this is stupid and just sort of circumvents all the security stuff. So there's a lot of tools to do stuff that shouldn't be possible on Wayland that work only on WL roots.
So they're working around limitations of Wayland.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Okay, so YDO tool is a thing on WL roots, but I don't believe KDE has anything for that.
Yeah, like KDE has this benefit that you can also make application and window rules, so you don't really need to write a script. You could just specify this in the GUI to, set a certain position, window settings, size.
I guess you could get around it with window rules then. I don't know how complex the KDE window rules are.
I used to use them for a prompter. There's something called Imaginary Teleprompter. It's like a web app that you can. It's very nice. I use that to record some videos. I made a teleprompter out of cardboard. Let me show you.
Oh no. What is
That's
that
the beauty.
thing?
Yeah, I designed this in FreeCAD. I measured my screen and my webcam. I was using Logitech C920 back then. And so it would fit inside here. So I would put this on my screen, covering my webcam, and then my webcam would reflect, it would like see through a piece of plastic, and there's a mirror below, and the mirror was like reflecting part of my screen, and then there was the screen was reflecting off the foil, so I could see part of my screen on top of the camera lens. So I could talk to the camera and read text from it, which was useful for some things. But now I switched to an actual camera, and it's a bit too big, and it's quite a. I mean, it did the job. It looks terrible, but it did the job.
I accept that I don't look at the camera when I talk half the time.
Yeah, I think I like now. If I write a script, I try to memorize it every paragraph and just read it out paragraph at a time, and then I splice these together. It also, like, I guess, comes out more natural because it can be kind of rigid if you're reading out, unless you're a good actor.
Yeah, I don't like have a full script. I just have notes there, so I can usually like remember a couple of dot points, and I just half the time I'm winging most of it. It's just like I know generally what I'm supposed to say, which is great when I recently planned the video. It's not great when I realized that I left the video there for like 2 months. Like, what the hell was I saying at this point? Like, what does this dot point mean? I don't know what the hell I was trying to write.
Oh. So it's best if you like write it down one day and record it another day, and
I've
edit the third day.
Better at like it's sort of expanding out the point, so when I come back to it later, I'm not completely lost by what I was trying to say.
By the way, I was like, when I see your channel and like some other channels that pop, like you manage to make like a couple videos every week or even more, and it's like I'm kind of like, wow, how do you do it? And do you like work at a different job at a time, or do you do this full time?
So
I'd love to know.
I do. Well, I'll just lay out everything I do. I do 6 videos a week on the main channel. I do a podcast a week on the podcast channel, and I take some clips from that. I also stream twice a week on the gaming channel, and then take clips from that. The clips take like maybe an hour at most. Like they're no work at all. I do have an actual job. It's not like I'm not working full time. If I was working full time, that just wouldn't work. So I work part time. I do like 10 to 15 hours a week, generally, something in that range. So it's not like a, not a ton of hours. Most of my time is spent on the channel itself. If I had to estimate, probably too much time. I don't know, like I'd probably put like 40 hours a week into the channel, maybe a bit more, depending on the week. Yeah.
That's more than a full-time job, I believe.
It is, yes. That's
or
true.
Barely. Yeah. That's a lot of work.
It is, yes, quite.
So it's awesome that you can, have a part-time job and keep doing it.
I've never really been big on like having a lot of things. Like I know there's things back here, but like I don't spend a ton of money. I will I've got a shelf of books back there. The books are like $20 each. I'm not big on. What was that?
Nothing.
I'll just go back and listen to it in post then.
I said the books are hollow.
Yeah, like the Earth.
And flat.
I don't really go out much. I don't really have that much in the way of like bills. I try to keep like my spending fairly low. I am like the place I'm renting right now, I'm like living with one of my mates. So it's like we're just splitting the rent together. So like I tend to keep things pretty cheap with like how much I spend. So it's not really a big deal for me to not really be working that much. The channel itself actually is bringing in quite a bit at this point. Like it's getting to the point where it's actually like more than my actual job, which is really cool. Not enough where I'd want to like
awesome.
Leave the job. That's not happening anytime soon. Like I could get to the right now. I could. It's just I don't want to leave the job and then go to making the same amount, like just doing YouTube. I'm not in any position where I like need to leave the job or anything. I don't hate it. It's chill. I just show up, I do my thing, and I leave. I don't have any responsibilities. It's great.
Wow.
Well, I work in retail. I just pick up boxes and put them on the shelf. It's brainless work. Some
You
people
can't
might.
put them wrong.
Some people do.
Or can you?
That's the thing. There'll be like a section of soup, and they'll be like, "I don't know how to. What is chicken soup? Is that beef? No, no, it's not."
When you're thinking about Wayland and Pipewire, I'm like,
that's actually what it's good for.
oh shit!
I've actually
You can figure out scripts in your head while you work.
I've had a lot of
man.
really good video ideas while I'm just chilling at work. Like maybe some people would hate it, and I totally get that, but I don't. It's just a nice way to take my mind off of stuff. Yeah,
I think that's also kind of healthy because you have some physical activity.
Yeah.
And it also helps your mind relax because I think the two should be in balance. In my life, there's a huge disbalance of mental workload and physical workload, which is barely any.
Yeah, if I wasn't doing that, I'd probably I've put on a bit of weight over the past couple of years, but it probably would be much worse if I wasn't doing that work.
Yeah, I can't get myself to like exercise regularly or even like bike once a week because I just have so many ideas that every time when I don't do work and don't do chores, it's like, okay, I'm gonna program this thing in the game, or okay, I want to work on the album this time, or wow, I'm just got some comments to answer, or stuff like that.
How are you with answering comments? I read everything and I answer too many of them. How about yourself?
I read all of them. I try to reply to all of them. There aren't that many, and I see that there's waves. Like there are like days where I don't see almost any comments, and sometimes there's like a bunch of them, but there aren't too many.
Well, you upload far less frequently than I do as well, though. So there's also that.
Yeah, I like in the past 2 months, I like uploaded one video. I do monthly live streams, though. So the live streams survived my job change and health issues, and they're going strong. I'm also having a nice guest from the community who's kind of co-hosting the show with me, and we're making noise together, and we can like split doing noise and reading chat, and hopefully not missing questions from people. Yeah, more often than not, I'm answering people, and then I drop, hey, you probably want to join my community chat because there are people who will answer this for you better. And actually, I wanted to record a video today just saying this, because I would copy and paste that to every single person asking questions. Because you can't give good help on YouTube comment section. You can't show screenshots. You can't like... And so I'm just going to make a short video saying, hey, go to my community chat at chat.unfa.xyz, and you'll meet hundreds of people doing this stuff. They can help you.
Yeah,
better than I can.
I've definitely experienced the same thing. People ask... I think I've gotten to the point now where I've sort of cultivated this audience of people that question every single thing I say, maybe to like a detriment. But there will be a lot of people asking me stuff that I don't have any idea about, but someone like, because of this sort of questioning mindset, I've found that a lot of people like actually just answer stuff for me, even in the YouTube comments. I have people over on the Discord as well, but a lot of the time stuff just gets answered right there. But it seems like a lot of the stuff that's showing up now is less strictly, hey, what is like an objectively correct answer here, and more like opinions on things. And that's where you can get into like, you can get into some interesting discussions there, especially when someone's trying to have a, I guess, an honest discussion, because you'll run to some people where it's not exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you with like a gotcha moment, like, hey, I see, you said this and you actually meant this. Like, nope, stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, it's it's hard to have honest discussions in comment sections, because sometimes people get very emotional and even start using insults or something. It's difficult. or it's just hard. Like I was, I remember I was mentioning somewhere in a comment something about, I don't know, Xorg, and someone asked like, why you're using Xorg? And I'm like, what else I'll be using? Like, Wayland is not ready.
Have you had any of the Arkan shields show up? There's like 5 of them.
Wait, could you repeat?
Arkan.
I don't think I know what that is.
Exactly. There is another display server technology called Arkan.
Ooh.
And
I haven't had people evangelizing that in my comment sections yet.
there is a very small number of people who know that it exists, but the people who do are like the biggest evangelizers for Arkan that you will ever see. And I don't know why, because it's this tiny, tiny project. The only thing that ships it is Void Linux. You can, it's perfectly functional, but like it's so far behind in like adoption that it's never going to be anything, actually important. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it will be. Maybe when Wayland becomes the main thing, everyone's gonna be like, Wayland's terrible, let's go to Arkan now. That seems to be the way that Linux things go. We adopt something, then we have to adopt the next thing.
We always need to find the underdog that we can root for.
And
yeah,
when
once it becomes the main thing, we find a new underdog.
Exactly. If Linux becomes the primary desktop operating system, everybody's going
to start hating. And yeah, absolutely. I'm sure of that. And actually, I'm sure that Linux will become top on the desktop in some time. Not sure if this decade, but I think how things are going, it's inevitable.
There's definitely been a lot of positive work in like the gaming space, for example. This is one of the areas where I'm really interested. And for all the things that Valve doesn't do that are great, like you can certainly, I've heard arguments against the whole licensing model for selling games where you don't really own the games because if you lose your account, then you don't actually own anything. But when it comes to pushing forward Linux gaming, no one is doing it. Like, no one is doing it without Valve, but no one is doing it to the level of Valve.
Yeah, Valve has been doing amazing work to make Linux a viable desktop platform for everyday users. Because everyday users want to play games.
Yeah.
And like they figured that Linux. I think I recently saw a tidbit from an interview with Gaben about Linux, and he said like the Linux is the best platform for gaming, and like he believes in that, and yeah, they are working towards making that a reality, which is awesome because that means better environment for gamers with more freedom and privacy and configurability. Hopefully also DRM-less gaming. That's why I try to buy most games from GOG.
There is a weird concern with Linux gaming, though. Like, a lot of the big gaming companies mention the fact... I don't know if it's just them being lazy. It probably is. Mention the fact that it's much more difficult to do anti-cheat on Linux because, kernel-level anti-cheat's a bit harder to do when everybody can mess with their kernel.
Yeah, I guess
Which
so.
is
But
sort
also,
of their own fault for using kernel-level anti-cheat.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to have kernel-level anti-cheat anywhere. Like, that's just a rootkit.
It is a rootkit, yes.
How can anyone trust this? Like, man, this is quite horrible that this is an accepted practice, honestly.
Yeah.
The companies are doing this kind of thing. And there's been so much controversy.
It's whether it's EAC, BattleEye, or anything else, this is just the, a kernel level anti-cheat? That's fine. You're still good.
Yeah. No, that's no good. Yeah, I'm not really playing like the latest and greatest. Usually when I play games, they are at least a couple years old and are on sale because I don't have I would dedicate time to play games, like, dedicating hundreds of hours to play a game.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't buy a AAA title day one just to, take a week off from work and just play it. Like,
yeah.
I get bored. Like, I finished some games. Like, I finished Deus Ex, the first one, like, this year, but I didn't want to replay it again.
That's a bit of a
I know
waiting time to play Deus Ex.
Yeah. It was horrible because I wanted to. First, I watched like every piece of media on YouTube about it. I really got into it, and I was like, I started my playthrough while I was doing that. So I was pausing videos when they got into spoiling the parts I didn't play through yet, and then I was coming back when I played through that. Quite weird, but yeah, I wouldn't call that retro gaming, though it probably kind of is. Like, people say retro gaming for like emulating PS1 or 8-bit consoles, but I don't know. Playing 20-year-old games is retro gaming.
I have
at this
heard
point.
some people describe PS2 as retro gaming, and that's I'm like, oh, like that was my first console.
I never got into consoles. I never had too much to spend on computer hardware, so consoles were never a consideration because I thought, if you have a computer, you can play games on it and you can do other things. So computer is a better choice for me because, yeah, I can't spend another same amount of money on a different piece of hardware that will just play games.
Yeah. Well, especially like now, the barrier between console and PC is much smaller because of how powerful modern PCs are, and emulation and stuff. Whether certain companies are a fan of it or not.
Nintendo.
How do you feel about, like, one thing that I've said a bunch of times, I'm not a big fan of emulating the current generation or anything that's still in print. That's just the way I personally like to approach it. If it's going to be like still in print, like a Switch game, for example, you can emulate Switch games just fine because the Switch is, 7-year-old hardware. I don't particularly like emulating Switch games myself unless I own a copy of the game. Because I feel like if the game is still in circulation, like, if I can buy a new copy, I think it's best for me to buy a new copy. Now, when it's not in circulation, I don't care. I know some people make the argument like, oh, if you don't have a copy of the game, then you shouldn't emulate it. But it's just like, if the only way to get a copy of that game is to buy it secondhand, it's not like you're putting money into the hands of the developers at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. That when the game is still being pressed and released, and the original developers, the studio that made the investment to produce the game,
I don't care what anyone else does. Like, if people want to emulate like whatever game they want to emulate, that's fine by me. But like the way that I approach it, I'm just not a big fan of doing that.
I never got much into doing any of that, honestly. I tried some PS1, PSX for emulating because I wanted to try Silent Hill 1, and I didn't get very far. But it was the only one time I actually used emulation of a console, I think. I also played around with Commodore 64 emulation a bit, but because I had this before I had a PC, and like everybody had a PC, and I had a Commodore, and I was like, can't do shit on this thing. Yeah.
I've been spotting your chair this entire time. I'm curious what it is. It's a mesh chair of some sort.
Yeah. It's called Ergo Human something. Actually, I got because I had a very cheap IKEA chair, and
I know the feeling.
and I realized it's not that great, and it hurts my elbows. So, I looked at my a workmate had a chair, and I was like, "Hey, how's this chair? Is it good?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's a good chair." I was like, "What's that chair? I want to get one." So I got one, and it's really good.
Are the armrests like hard plastic, or are they padded?
They are plastic, but it's padded. They are soft, but not too soft.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of
no longer.
Sorry.
Yeah, my elbows no longer hurt when I switch to this chair, but it's not like cushion soft.
Yeah, these used to be. Actually, I don't think you can see them with where my camera's pointed. The chair I've got, it used to be cushioned, but like the cushion's a bit not cushioned anymore. But I've used. I really don't like the gaming chairs. You know, the ones that are based on the racing chairs, and especially when most of them have these rock solid plastic armrests, and you put your elbows on them, and you're just like, this is terrible. Why does anyone use this?
Yeah, I watched a video quite some time ago by Gamers Nexus when they made an analysis.
I think I know the video you're talking about.
Yeah, they made a very good video about why gaming chairs are just bad.
Yeah.
And I think I agree. The gaming chairs seem to be all about looks. They are often from fake leather, which is sweaty and doesn't breathe. And they are unergonomic in shape, and like they are really bad. They just look nice. And I think it's all about gamer swag, you know?
I think, well, they don't look, the only thing they look nice for is the color scheme. That's it. Like the actual...
Yeah, they come in different colors, that's for sure. I don't think like typical office or ergonomic chairs like this one come in such interesting colors. But I don't care, it's a chair. Like it has to be comfortable and help me not have back problems after hours and hours of work.
That's why I bought a standing desk as well.
Oh, that's a nice thing.
It's quite nice. I enjoy it. I had to like redo all my cables to make sure things don't fall off when I raise it up, but now that it's good, I can just... I've got like a setting on here as well. It just automatically goes up to where it needs to be. It's really nice, but I do want to... Like, this chair has kind of fallen apart, so I've been sort of looking at getting an actual, like, nice ergonomic chair that will not ruin my back.
Yeah, I can look up what exactly is this.
Yeah, I found one that I think that it is.
Reference later.
Yeah, I think I found there's like different versions of the Ergo Human, but I think this is...
Yeah, there's like a newer and an older version. They also, I think, come in different sizes for smaller people.
Yeah.
Or for larger people. So I think this is the largest one, but I don't feel small in it. And so I'm not a huge dude. I was thinking about maybe getting a standing desk one time, but the desk I have now is it's an IKEA board. It's 2 meters long and 60 centimeters deep.
Yeah.
And it just rests on two cabinets. And it's like, first, me and my wife used this one desk. Like everyone had a half of it. That's why it's 2 meters long. But then we got a separate desk for my wife, and I like expanded my kingdom to the whole 2 meters. And also, there's so much hardware and cabling, and I have some stuff hanging on the wall right above the camera. So if I were to lift this all, it would just explode.
Yeah, you have to sort of adjust stuff around the idea of a standing desk to make it work.
Yeah, and even like the cables that come from my PC to like the monitors and everything, that would be really difficult to set up so it can shift up and down. So it would be nice, but I think my setup is not very adaptable to that.
What are you using for a camera right now?
I'm using a Panasonic Lumix GH5.
Ah, okay. That's the same.
It's kind of a standard among YouTubers.
Isn't that the one that DT has? It is.
I got it secondhand, and I'm really happy with it. It's great for pretty much anything. It's getting old, so it's like one sad thing is that like a modern iPhone can do better slow motion than it.
Yo.
It like can do 240 frames at 1080p, while this can do 180 frames at 1080p. But well, that's like the only thing that limits it, and still it's pretty nice slow motion. You can do a lot with it.
That, and also like just general image quality is part of the reason why there are rumors right now that Canon is kind of like gonna kill off some of their low-end cameras. So I'm running a Canon EOS M200 right now, which is like the bottom of the line mirrorless cameras, and I've been hearing stuff that they're considering like killing off their like lens line for those cameras and killing off those cameras, which would then mean that the base tier for Canon cameras goes from being like, I think $700 Australian up to like $1,500, which is like a big jump.
That's like giving up a whole piece of the market.
Especially when Sony still is going to have cameras in that market, and Panasonic still has cameras in that market. Like it seems weird, but it also kind of makes sense considering that like your iPhone is kind of insane at this point. Like not just an iPhone, like just any modern smartphone, the cameras in them are just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
there is so much crazy engineering that goes into making a really nice camera that's smaller than a coin.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. Like I have a OnePlus 5T, and it can film 4K in 30 frames, which looks really decent. And also with an open source app like HedgeCam 2, you can like squeeze a really high bitrate, so high that you can see the grain.
Oh God.
Which is like, if you can see the grain clearly, that means that you have a good bitrate. So yeah, I mean, if you don't have anything better, you can record really nice videos just with a phone, but it isn't very convenient because the phone packs everything else.
Yeah.
And I was considering using my phone as my camera for recording videos. But first thing is like having that be reliably captured to my PC is that's difficult. It can work, but I mean, I think if I were to do that, I would use Video Ninja, and that uses WebRTC video streaming. But still, like the latency could be drifting a bit. So syncing this with audio, then it's a pain.
Yeah.
And then someone can call you and ruin everything. Like...
I think as like now knowing what I know, I would suggest using your phone until you buy a camera. Like,
yeah,
I don't think it makes sense unless you already have a webcam. I don't think it makes sense to buy a webcam. Like, I like my C920 because I bought my C920 ages ago, but my phone looks better than my C920. Like, webcams just look awful.
Yeah. Any phone released within 10 years is going to look better than any webcam. Because I think webcams get very bad optics.
Well, there's just not a market for a high-end webcam. Like, there are a couple of like higher end, but like when it comes to like an actual good, there is no like fundamental engineering reason why a webcam should look any worse than a phone. It's a bigger body for a camera. It should look better, but no one cares because people buy them because they want to use them like in Zoom calls, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. The first camera I got was C920. And I think I squeezed the maximum quality out of it possible.
Yep.
With very careful tuning of settings like exposure, focus, and also lighting.
Yep.
Because
lighting
when you if you dial the exposure down to like 100, 200, and you have good lighting, you can make it look pretty decent, but it's never going to look sharp.
Yeah.
Even if it's like in focus, it's always not sharp. And that's why you always need to sharpen it. It sucks. So yeah, you can do okay video with a webcam too, but it was painful. It's like, damn, this is smaller. Why the webcam looks so bad? This looks better. Why don't they put phone cameras in the webcams? I'd buy that.
It would be cool. I think there are some small projects aiming to do that, but like nothing from any of the major providers, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like the best webcam you can buy, I think, is like Logitech Brio 4K. Something like that.
Still not that
so
great.
That's 4K. But then you probably only get a sharp image if you downscale it to 1080p before you after you sharpen it. I didn't test it, but I don't think it's that much better.
The problem with the Brio is that the color's a bit wonky, though. Like, it makes things a bit...
And it also has a very wide lens, I think.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, like, the room I'm in, actually, me and my wife have designed it specifically for me recording videos and us, like, having a co-working space. So I have a green screen that rolls from the ceiling right behind my back between my desk and her desk. And specifically, my desk is in such a place that the camera sees me and the green screen. If I had a wider lens, I can even like zoom out right now, and you would start seeing.
It's not
like,
showing up on.
You can start seeing. Yeah, you can start seeing like my doors, the corner, or something. So it's really. It's a close thing. So if I had a wide angle webcam, that would just not work. Like, also, why do you want a wide angle webcam? It might make sense if you can digitally track your face and zoom in.
Streamers generally like having a wide angle. That's what it's for.
If you have a really cool background that you want to show off, I get it. But if you have a really cool background, you probably have a good camera that isn't the webcam too.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think of some reason for it to exist, but no, I can't think of.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why it exists, and I can't understand why webcams look so bad and never give a sharp image.
Just look, use your phone, install Droid Cam, and then buy a good microphone, and then you'll be good.
Yeah.
Or just actually, you not even buy a good microphone. Buy a microphone. Please don't use microphone on C920. Very bad. Or like on your phone.
Oh no.
Definitely not on C920, but not on your phone either.
The C920 mic, it goes like to 8 kilohertz. It has like 16 kilohertz sampling rate, I think. Well, it doesn't do 44.1, which is the standard. I think they like cut down on bandwidth, just squeeze in the video and audio in via the USB 2.0 standard. I think that's why they did it.
Well, the joke about the C920 mic is that it's just like it's the funny mic. You just make it as loud as possible to make every single sound peak, and it's just the mic you use to make funny noises. That's all.
So it's the meme mic.
Exactly.
Okay, I should try that in my videos.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Scream into the C920. Screaming in the C920. Like.
God. Look, I'm sure that would do well on your channel.
And then try to make it sound good with advanced processing.
Actually, I think that would be an interesting video. Trying to make the C920 mic sound serviceable.
Acceptable. Yeah, that could be a good challenge. By the way, my framing is off. That could be a good challenge, but it wouldn't work if you screamed into it at maximum gain.
No.
You can't recover that.
No, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, you can just turn it down and
to make it less ear piercing. That's it.
Yes, that's all you can do. But the memes thrive on it.
Exactly.
So that's good. Memes are an important piece of culture.
Memes, the DNA of the soul. Well, I think that's
the backbone of the internet.
I think that's as good a place to end it as anything. It is currently 2:30 in the morning for me, so I'm gonna go to bed.
Oh man.
And then I've
That
got
explains
videos.
why you kind of started yawning.
Yeah, no,
I don't
it's just
blame
'cause
you.
you're really boring.
Shit. I was hoping you wouldn't say that. But I
Oh god.
accept that.
Well,
Yeah,
let the
for me
people.
it's 7 p.m. So
It's 7 p.m. for you. Oh, this is lucky you.
yeah. Thank you for like adjusting your schedule to
No,
my
no.
time zone.
I'm joking about it. Like, if I didn't want to do it now, I wouldn't be doing it now.
No, absolutely. But I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries, man. Let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on unfa.xyz. That's my homepage. It's just made in plain HTML, typed in nano. It's ugly, but it has all the links.
Yo.
So if you want find anything regarding me,
actually
unfa.xyz has
plain
all
HTML.
links. It is plain HTML, really. I wasn't joking. I
thought
made
you
it
were
in
gonna.
nano.
There was like gonna be some CSS here. I don't see any.
No, you pretty much can see URL it and read it in less in your terminal, and you will understand enough.
It works. Why not?
It's gonna look pretty much the same in links.
Yeah. I guess.
Minus the thumbnails of videos.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, true.
And my face on the top, because my face. You gotta know it's my website, not somebody else's.
Very important.
And also, you need to be able to steal my avatar, of course. That's important. Fuck, shit. No, take it down. It's an NFT. No, it isn't.
Please
Oh,
no.
man.
Please no NFTs.
So many memetic topics we could discuss, but time's up. Brody's gotta sleep.
I do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man.
I've had a great time. I really enjoy your videos.
Thank you.
And I really enjoyed this.
I really enjoy your music. I hadn't actually listened to much of it before, but I went and listened to, I think, most of it, actually. I really like Suppressed. I like Anti-Feature. It's a great track.
Oh, yeah. It's about...
I think everybody likes Anti-Feature.
Yeah, it's about secure boot screwing me over and making me think my motherboard is broken because I can't boot Linux. I almost sent it back, and I made a song to commemorate that. On the new album, there's a song about why I hate Kden Live. It's called Brain MLT. It's a very deep inside joke, because many of you might not know, but Kden Live is a graphical user interface to MLT, which is media loving
Trash?
Something. It might be trash. Train wreck. That's okay. And that is an ancient library that was meant for broadcasted standard definition television. It was not made for video editing. Please stop making video editors claiming to be video editors if you're using MLT. Just stop. Don't do it. Get some help. So Brain MLT.
Sure. Okay. Is that the only thing you want to mention? The website and MLT being bad?
I think one more thing is my game, Liblast. You can find it on libla.st. I think we've scouted the perfect URL for this game. Like, can't get any better. Libla.st.
What is ST?
I have no idea, but it just fits.
Sure, okay. If someone knows what ST is in the comments, let me know.
And it was way cheaper than Liblast.game, which was like insanely expensive. So
yup. .games are very expensive.
But I don't care. We got the shortest possible URL.
Yeah.
It's the best.
I think it's a great name. I think it works perfectly.
Yeah, some people wanted us to change the name, but I don't see a problem. I think it's a really cool name.
Yeah.
So if anybody watching is into Godot and game development and programming in JavaScript and would like to help make the next awesome open source FPS multiplayer, then drop me a line, because I could really use some help. Me and the team.
I'll leave all those links in the description down below.
Thank you so much.
As for me, main channel, Brody Robertson, I do my Linux videos over there. Gaming channel, Brody Robertson Plays, I do 2 gaming streams a week. Next week, I guess this week, whatever week this is coming out, I'm playing Stray, the cat game. You run around as a cat. It's cool. And I think I'm playing Devil May Cry. So those are happening, which are very different games, but fuck it, we're doing it at the same time.
Which one, Devil May Cry? There's like 1,000 of them, I think.
I'm going to start the series from the start, actually. I've never played Devil May Cry.
I haven't played your. I just picture huge swords when you say that.
Either way, I know Devil May Cry has good music, and that's all that matters.
I think Noisia made soundtrack for one of the Devil May Cry games. Whoa. Yeah, that must be good.
If you're watching the video version, the audio version you can find wherever you can find podcasts. There's an RSS feed. It's on other things. You find it. Just search Tech Over Tea. If you're listening to the audio version, the video version is available on the Tech Over Tea YouTube channel. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I'll give you the final word. What do you want to say?
It's GNU/Linux/systemd/KDE/Vexorg/glibc/.
Okay, sure, why not?